An India-China diplomatic spat has ignited over Arunachal Pradesh once more. A woman hailing from the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh was detained and harassed at Shanghai Airport. She suffered an agonizing 18-hour ordeal and harassment at the hands of Chinese authorities simply because she is an Indian from Arunachal.
They said Arunachal is not part of India. Apply for Chinese passport. You're Chinese, you're not Indian.
Chinese officials refused to recognize her passport as a valid Indian document of identification. They detained her, laughed at her, mentally tortured her, and questioned her identity. She was denied permission to board her onward flight to Japan. Shockingly, Chinese officials also claimed Arunachal is part of China, after which they confiscated her passport and prevented her from boarding the plane to Japan despite her carrying a valid Japanese visa. Now, Indian government has hit back and lodged an official protest. This incident shows that despite the normalization of diplomatic ties, granting of visas to Chinese nationals and resumption of direct flights, China will continue to poke and provoke India over Arunachal Pradesh. We'll get you the full details and also tell you how this is not the first time Chinese authorities are harassing Indians from Arunachal. We'll also tell you what is the Arunachal or Tibet dispute between India and China, so stay with us. Pema Wang Thongdok wrote in a series of posts on X, quote, I was held at Shanghai Airport for over 18 hours on 21st November 2025 on claims by Chinese Immigration and China Eastern Air. They called my Indian passport invalid as my birthplace is Arunachal Pradesh, which they claimed is Chinese territory, unquote. Pema Wang reported that Chinese Eastern Airlines staff and immigration officers even mocked her and suggested that she apply for a Chinese passport. The harassment was taken to another level when she was also denied access to food, airport facilities, and official updates on her status. The authorities only returned her passport after she agreed to buy a new ticket exclusively on China Eastern Airlines, which caused her an immediate financial loss. Later, she was obligated to contact the Indian consulate in Shanghai, and with their assistance, she was able to leave the airport late at night. In response to this incident, the Modi government in New Delhi has issued a strong démarche to China. MEA sources stated that these actions from Chinese authorities will only lead to unnecessary obstructions, especially as the two countries are working towards better relations. The démarche added, quote, Arunachal Pradesh is indisputably Indian territory and its residents are perfectly entitled to hold and travel with Indian passports.
Arunachal Pradesh always remain an integral and inalienable part of India.
Ministry of External Affairs elaborated, quote, it was stressed that the passenger had been detained on ludicrous grounds. Arunachal Pradesh is indisputably Indian territory and its residents are perfectly entitled to hold and travel with Indian passports. It has also been highlighted that these actions of Chinese authorities are in contravention to Chicago and Montreal conventions relating to civil aviation. Pema, while recounting her experience, called it a direct insult to India's sovereignty. She has appealed to Prime Minister Modi and Indian authorities to address this issue with Beijing. She has also appealed to ensure that all Indians from Arunachal Pradesh are shielded from such harassment and discrimination while traveling abroad, especially to China. India has made its stance on Arunachal Pradesh abundantly clear. MEA spokesperson Ranveer Jaiswal had stated earlier, Arunachal Pradesh was, is and will always be an integral and inalienable part of India. Its people will continue to benefit from our development programs and infrastructure projects, unquote. But the CCP has a habit of claiming the territory of its neighbors. Just ask Japan, the Philippines, ask Vietnam, or even Russia in the past. Now, this is simply something that CCP does. I won't be surprised if tomorrow the CCP claims Antarctica or the planet Mars as Chinese territory simply because it looks red. In fact, China has no official claims over Arunachal Pradesh. The disputes involving the state go back to the early 20th century 1953, and then in 1962, Sino-India War. In 1914, the McMahon Line was established as the boundary between British India and the Tibetan government during the Shimla Convention, but China at that time, who was not part of the agreement, rejected this, even though Tibet was an independent nation, free to make its own decisions. After independence in 1947, India inherited the boundary claims as well as Arunachal Pradesh as agreed upon. But the border dispute over the state intensified after Chinese military invasion and annexation of Tibet in the 1950s. The 1962 Sino-Indian War, China tried to capture parts of Arunachal Pradesh but later withdrew after Indian military amassed its own troops. Since then, the two countries have tried to resolve border issues, but disagreement over the line of actual control continues to this date. From 2017 to 2020, the two countries saw tensions and clashes near Doklam Plateau in Bhutan and later in Arunachal near Tawang, which remains a sensitive zone. China claims the entire Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh as part of Tibet Autonomous Region, calling it as South Tibet. China has, from time to time, rejected McMahon Line and asserted its claim over this Indian state. In 2020 and beyond, incidents of Chinese patrols crossing into Arunachal Pradesh and attempts to strengthen its claims have persisted. Chinese graffiti was also found in Arunachal's Anjaw district in 2024. In the same year, visuals emerged of Chinese soldiers who had been crying after being caught by the Indian army after straying into Arunachal Pradesh. In 2024 and 2025, Indian government officially rejected China's absurd and baseless claims over Arunachal and also rejected China's attempts to give imaginary names to places inside the state. China has provoked India on Arunachal multiple times by asserting aggressive territorial claims and conducting incursions, which India has also firmly rejected as violations of its sovereignty. Here are a few instances. In 2023, China released an official standard map showing Arunachal Pradesh as part of Chinese territory and several Indian places in the state as well. India condemned it and condemned this act and called it futile attempt to question India's sovereignty. In 2024, India's Defense Minister Rajnath Singh accused China of trying to unilaterally change the status quo by sending nearly 200 to 300 troops near an Indian outpost in the Tawang district of Arunachal. In 2024, in Anjaw district of the state, Chinese graffiti and evidence of campfires were found nearly 60 kilometers inside Indian territory. A few months ago, India hit back by restoring 30 ancient names of places inside Tibet which existed before the Chinese military occupation in 1950s. Arunachal Pradesh Chief Minister also reminded the world that India historically shared its border with the nation of Tibet and not with China. The United States of America has strongly supported India's right over Arunachal Pradesh and opposed China and their claims and incursions. On China's attempt to rename locations in Arunachal, the US State Department official stated in 2024, the United States strongly opposes any unilateral attempts to advance territorial claims by incursions or encroachments, military or civilian, across the line of actual control. In 2023 as well, the then White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre had stated, the United States has recognized that territory, Arunachal Pradesh, for a long time as part of India, and we strongly oppose any unilateral attempt to advance territorial claims by renaming localities, unquote. Additionally, in 2023, the United States Senate passed a resolution recognizing Arunachal Pradesh as part of India, reaffirming the McMahon Line as an international boundary between China and Arunachal Pradesh and thus India, and rejecting Chinese claims. Now, in a move to improve relations between India and China, the Modi government has lifted ban on direct flights from China and started easing visa norms for Chinese nationals from this year or 2025 after 5 long years of pause triggered by the Galwan Valley clashes during the pandemic, which had emerged from China, spread across the world and crippled the globe. So is this a wise move by New Delhi? One cannot deny that despite the two nations trying to bridge gaps in diplomacy, India and China still face border tensions. Easing visa restrictions can risk multiple strategic aspects and unresolved issues like Arunachal dispute. So should India start delinking Tibet with China over visas. Officially, India recognizes Tibet as part of China. However, India acknowledges that Tibet was an independent nation throughout most of its history. Currently, in order to travel to Tibet, such as visiting the sacred Hindu site of Kailash Mansarovar, Indian travelers depend on Chinese permittance. Indian travelers must secure a Chinese visa and Tibet travel permit arranged by licensed agencies. However, maybe it is time India also demands separate visas for Tibetan nationals arriving in India, just as China provokes India on Arunachal. Have your say. Should India ease visa restrictions for Chinese nationals at a time when China continues to provoke India on Arunachal? Leave a comment with your opinion, hit the like button and subscribe to Inconnect News.